feeling about short fiction, though, is complicated. And I think that any time, historically, when the New Yorker's fiction has been perceived as or is truly strong, there are probably 2 or 3 or 4 writers who are really floating the boat because of their mastery of short fiction. This was certainly true in, say, the 60s and 70s when Cheever, Updike, Donald Barthelme, and I'm leaving people out. That's who you remember. You remember over time the masterful work, the best work. It's not a question of less of it. That's not true. The question is, who do you regard in a given moment as a master of the short story? And the problem is, I think a lot of writers graduate out of short fiction. They write them in youth, in their 20s, and then they stop. And it is unusual for the pattern to be otherwise. Jhumpa Lahiri, who's now probably 40, is unusual. Much more ordinary pattern is Philip Roth. He writes Goodbye Columbus. They're short stories. They gain him some notoriety, and he moves on. It is extremely unusual to have a career like John Cheever, and in which you're writing short stories from the beginning to the end of your writing life. And Alice Munro is another unusual one. I can't really think of too many fiction writers of middle age and younger where the short story plays the dominant role. Maybe George Saunders would be one, but it's unusual. First of all, I think there are enough of them at a high enough level that, in fact, I find myself reading them with enormous enjoyment, pleasure, intrigue, all the rest. You know, when you're always, and being an editor is about hope, and we come out every week. It's like asking a baseball manager, if you happen to lose 3 games in a row, why do you keep playing? Because there's the next day. And I think American fiction is in a state of real strength. The American short story, you have to keep looking, and you have to keep encouraging writers sometimes who are farther along to write stories, and sometimes that works. It certainly works with E.L. Doctorow, who's obviously not in the beginning of his career. And also hope that you discover younger writers in the beginning when they are writing short stories that are strong. And that's happened over and over and over again. We hold in our minds, editors, readers, our contemporaries, an ideal of a tribal literary discussion. We somehow have the faint notion that somewhere, just before our time, that there existed magazines and books that everyone read, everyone, meaning everyone of our extended circles, read and then discussed at dinner. I think to some extent this was always romanticized. But it is true that the distractions of the world now are more various, greater in number, and more diverse. Look at popular music. Popular music, even when I was growing up, there were central hit-making radio stations that everybody listened to in the car or at home. And then as a result of what you liked or what you didn't like, that's how you bought these things called albums. They were these large square things, and you would go to E.J. Corvette's, and for $3.99 you'd buy them. Okay, and then that song would go up the charts, down the charts, and so on. Now, music is consumed in an entirely radically niched way, and even a way of making sense of it, like on the back page of Rolling Stone, there are 15 different charts. College radio chart, this chart, but that doesn't even begin to tell the story of the way music is consumed radically differently than the way it was some time ago. I think similarly with books, we are kidding ourselves if we think that everybody's reading the same thing, especially in serious fiction, at the same time. I think the New Yorker can make an attempt, by putting forward this story or that story on a given week and hope for the best. But it was always a rare thing that everybody was talking about J.D. Salinger's Franny or Zoe or what have you. That's a rare thing when everybody coalesces around a piece of fiction at a given moment. It really is.